Coverage you can count on continues with Drew Blair.
A recent poll shows that 56% of today's youth have been the target of cyberbullying or other types of online taunting and harassment. Joining me now via Skype to talk about ways to prevent this type of online bullying is George Garrick, the CEO of SocialShield. George, before we get into what your company does, let's start with talking about cyberbullying and the effect it's having in today's society, because for most of our parents watching today, it was simply not an issue when they were in their kids' shoes.
Well, the difference is the internet. Back when we were all kids, bullying consisted of maybe getting in a fight in the playground or getting shoved around, and a couple of days later, your bruises would heal and everything would be fine. And what's different is cyberbullying allows kids to hide behind the computer. They don't have to confront personally the people that they're harassing. It makes it easy for groups of people to gang up on somebody, even though they may not all be going to the same school or physically located together. You're talking about psychological damage, not physical damage, and in many ways psychological damage is much more severe and long-lasting than physical damage. And finally, when something gets put on the internet, which is harassing to a child, it's permanent. You can't retract it, and it can be passed around from site to site, by person to person. So in many ways, it's a much more severe problem than we had when we went to school.
Now tell us about your service, SocialShield. How do parents use it to protect their kids?
Well, we really do two things. One thing that we do is we emulate parenting practices that you would engage in the real world. So in the real world, if you're a parent, you tend to watch what your kid's doing, who they're hanging around with, where they go after school. You kind of listen into their conversations. Now, kids spend more time online than they do unsupervised in the physical world. And what you want is to give parents a way of extending that parenting style and that parenting behavior to the social internet. And that's what we do. We allow parents to have a look over their kid's shoulder to see who they're talking to, what they're talking about, what kinds of content they're being exposed to, in the same way that a parent would do that in the real world. The second thing we do is we look for things that could be signs of danger or signs of threats. We look for words or phrases or memberships in groups that could represent harassment. We look for invitations to kids to become friends that are coming from suspicious strangers that may be older or, in many cases, maybe a registered felon or a registered sex offender. We've caught people trying to friend 13-year-old girls who are actually registered in the sex offender database. And then if we catch something suspicious like that, we will alert the parents, and it's then up to the parent to take a look and decide whether it's something that is worth investigating or something that they choose to dismiss, and that's up to the parent. So we really do two things. We give you a look over their shoulder, but then we alert you when we find things. And the parent could not do that themselves. The parent would need to be looking at hundreds and hundreds of message walls and postings and photo albums, and they'd be having to do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so we provide a very valuable service that a parent could not do by themselves.
All right. George Garrick, the CEO of SocialShield. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. First News continues after this.